I think we need to make a rule on these calls where you got to show up with a hat or a tie or a something just to make
I,
the.
I have a wide selection of ridiculous outfits. Just FYI.
I'm in. I'm in.
If you need a kind of like dancing, recording Egypt on the side, I'm your man.
This is Humble Mind, a social learning community with an insatiable curiosity for new ideas, big questions, and connection amongst like minds in life and in business. This podcast is where we get to speak with other unusual humble minds. And if you're a member of our community, then you get to join our podcast recording live, as well as access to our platform, our weekly newsletter, early releases of clips and the podcast, as well as replays from previous sessions. It's definitely worth checking out, and there's more that you can see on humblemind.co. Is it possible to intentionally navigate the ups and downs of life? Is there a way to think clearly about what you want, making peace with your past self, and move closer to the kind of person that you want to be, professionally and personally? Well, Dan Kirby from Founders Are Mental definitely thinks it is, and it's also possible to do it without burning out or having to pay a fortune for it. So it all starts with staying in the groove. And no, that's not listening to more funk or R&B, but aligning your body, your mind, your spirit, your awareness, so that you're able to tell yourself a different story about your progress and move closer to the things that are good for you and further away to the things that hurt you. There are tools that you can use to navigate the dark side of life's ups and downs, adventures, and today we're going to explore exactly that and how to get into your own particular groove. Welcome and enjoy the podcast. So, Dan, welcome. Thank you.
Nice to be here.
So my first question is, are you mental?
Yes. It is in the UK where I'm based. When you set up a company at Company's House, there is a checkbox for "Are you mental?" Because you have to be a little bit crazy to set out on a journey of self-employment or entrepreneurship of trying to build a business. Because the name sort of is a sort of play on the fact that it's just irrational to set out on to do the things that I and we are compelled to do. What do I mean by that? Well, the statistics, right? 9 out of 10 startups fails, but not mine, because I'm brilliant, says every founder. Right? But the stats are the stats, right? And so, listen, I'm a founder. I'm 22 years self-employed, building businesses. And and so I'm mental, yeah, for sure. And but for me, I would say that's good mental.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's creative, it's inspired, it's inspiring, it's innovative, it's trying to do good in the world, it's trying to help people in some way, shape, or form. But the problem is there's a paradox of that. There's a yin to the yang.
Yes. And I want to get into that because you've got a great way of kind of thinking about, like you said, the good mental, the bad mental, and how to sort of just make sense of those different states. But I'd love to start just with what your experience was and what your close shave was, because that's in a sense what's led you to kind of found this beautiful community, Founders Are Mental, to help other founders and entrepreneurs navigate, the kind of the unseeable beast in the room, right? But when it does strike, when your own mental health or your mental fitness is at risk, then often it's, when you're noticing those things, it can be too late. So was there an experience for you? You had a successful tech company for over 20 years. So something must have happened that made you want to just go, whoa, okay, pump the brakes. What's going on here?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Well, there's two things happened. One, I got what I wanted. Two, it nearly did me in. Yeah. So here's the paradox of the thing. This is why it's a challenge, because listen, nobody sets out and goes, yeah, well, I'm going to set a business up, and you know what? I'm going to burn out at some point. And I think it's funny because a lot of people talk about burnout, and I've had a series of burnouts, but no one thinks it's going to happen to them. No one thinks they're going to have the mental health breakdown or the bankruptcy or the divorce or anything bad. No one thinks that as you set out on that journey. Of course, otherwise you wouldn't do it. But here's the thing: so I've built 2 7-figure service businesses in the last 22 years. I've exited both. And I've got a lot of awards. I've traveled all over the world. I've spoken at Cannes Lions Festival, South by Southwest. I was named as a top 25 innovator in Europe, Middle East, and Asia by a global marketing magazine. All that kind of shit, right? I've had all that. And at the same time as all that was happening, I was clinical depression, burnout, cusp of divorce, fucked up how I was running my company, and so it nearly went bankrupt. So those 2 things were simultaneously true. All right. So my message really isn't that, oh, woe is me, I had mental health and blah, blah, and you should look after your mental health. Everybody knows that. My point is that your way of handling yourself as you are our founder, moment to moment, from day 1 to day 1,000,001, and I've been doing this for 22 and a half years now, and I still need to do this every day, right? Is because if you don't, the compound interest of not keeping yourself, as I would say, in the groove, but a line between doing too much, doing too little, wherever that is for you, and it's all unique to each individual. If you're not in the groove, whatever that means to you, then you risk it really fucking up. And not, I lose a bit of money this month, fucking up. You're ill, you're bankrupt, you're divorced, you're lonely, you're broken, and you lose your money, and you lose money that month. There's a really, like, the depth of the dark side to the path you set out to do is very deep. But that checkbox at Companies House in the UK where it says, are you mental, doesn't really elucidate on that. It just says, set up a company in a problem. Yeah, you're going to be a founder. You're going to hustle. You're going to grind. You're going to crush it. You're going to get it sorted. And you skate on ice. All right. And it's not, I've had an experience, but I think most founders and people I speak to, I've spoken to a lot of people about this kind of stuff. It's hard. It's isolating. It's difficult. It's uncertain. No one's, the statistics, we were kind of joking about it earlier, but that's true. And in all of that, it's a lot of psychological and emotional pain. All right. So Founders Are Mental's mission is to avoid that happening. So anybody who engages with us, we will help you avoid that fate. All right. Yeah. By helping you discover your groove, because your groove's not my groove. You might like funk, Alex, but I like drum and bass, mate. So, we all dance to our own groove. And so we help you find what is your groove. And are the records you're playing and your turntables the right records for you? I wasn't, by the way. I was playing a lot of tunes that were destructive for me. So it sounded fun, but basically bad groove. And I broke myself. And so the point is, it's questioning that and keeping in it is really the mission, our mission, my mission, really.
And so, I mean, for you and your story of being this successful founder and entrepreneur, you were speaking at all these beautiful events. And like you said, one of the things that happened was that you got what you want. You kind of got to the peak of Mount Everest. What went through your mind at that stage? Was there a sort of a, oh shit, now what? Or was there a, I'm still unfulfilled? Or was there a, oh wow, I didn't count on that much of a cost to get here? Like what happened at that stage?
Well, it was a, how do I put this right? So right. So in 2017 was my year of what I called the blow up. And this was the year I got that award, and we were at Austin for South by Southwest. And so what happened was, what I realized now looking back, and this is with the benefit of hindsight and with a lot of self-work, I realized that I was really disconnected from myself. I didn't know who I was. I was isolated from everyone, including myself. I was checked out of the business. I wasn't he had 25 staff and he was doing really well, and I couldn't be bothered anymore. And and I wasn't like I wasn't working, but I wasn't really checked in. Yeah, and that's dangerous for an entrepreneur. It'd been going for 13 years, doing really well. I thought I'd cracked the code. I thought I knew it all. And there's a very good book I would recommend to people called The Second Mountain by a chap called David Brooks. David Brooks writes a column for the New York Times. This first mountain is what I had climbed and what he talks about in his book. It's the mountain of fame and money, status and money, external validation. It's the mountain our culture tells us to climb. By the way, what I really like about this book is this guy is the kind of New York Times' resident Republican. He's like a right-wing guy, very bookish, very academic. His TED Talk on this subject is titled, How the Culture is Lying to You. All right? Now,
Great.
see, if that guy is telling you the culture is lying to you, he's not like some kind of radical thing, like left-wing dude, revolutionary. Up. He's very, very establishment. If that guy is telling you that message, you should probably pay attention, all right? Because that's the first mountain. So I'd climbed that mountain, and I was kind of hollow. I was sick. I was isolated, and I fell off my mountain. Right? Basically, I was in a bad groove, I would now say, right? And again, joking aside, I tend to like to play with these ideas, but it was hurting me, but I didn't know it was. I didn't know any better. Right? I was in a pattern, a set of habits that were bad grooves. I was playing a tune that just doesn't work for me. But I was playing that tune because I've always played that tune. For example, I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. So I grew up in the 1990s, early 1990s, 80s. I'm 50 now. So the early 90s in the UK, it was all about rave culture, nightclubs. I do DJ. And so everyone was very hedonistic. So drinking and partying and nightclubbing, staying up late, that's what you did if you were cool, and that's fine if you're 18 or even 28. But when you get to 38, it's not so cool, or 48, And so suddenly, well, you might think it's cool, but is it the right thing to do when you've got 3 kids and a business and what have you? The point being is I had been programmed by my culture that was cool. Had I grown up in LA in 2010, that I'd have a different set of influences in me, and there's all, and we were all like that with our culture, our peer group, our families, our predispositions. You're kind of, people talk about unconscious bias, but you're a swirling mass of unconsciousness. You look at any kind of neuroscience book, you are you're riding an elephant of your unconscious, and the unconscious will, if it wants to move left, it's going left, and you will then create a narrative that says, oh yeah, I really wanted to go left but you are out of, it's just happening. So I read a book called The Chimp Paradox again, and because I was really struggling with my mental health, and the psychiatrist recommended it, and I realized, having read this book, that I have an out of control gorilla, like a silverback gorilla, beating its chest like all the time and stomping about all the time, and I wasn't aware.
How did that show up? Because I feel like we've all, sorry to cut you off, but it's just, I love how you're developing this picture of a gorilla in particular, because I think we all have sort of stress responses and certain things that trigger us, and it feels like there's that gorilla stomping on you, or some kind of crazy beast who's out to get you. Like, did it come out in, like, did you break out in cold sweats? Were you like not able to string sentences together when it mattered? Like, or was it more subtle? Like, how did it affect you?
Here's the thing. It wasn't like I was doing really well. My silverback gorilla was very effective. Now, it was destructive at the same time, in the sense of for me, I was just like not in a place of peace. But I didn't think, hey, I'm not in a place of peace. I just thought, hey, I'm a founder, this shit's kicking off, I'll shout at that guy, get it moving, kick off a bit. And the fame and money response from the universe was working. All right. So it's not like I was in a ditch, strung out on heroin, going, you know what, I really should sort my mental health out. I was winning awards, traveling to Austin, Texas. I was like winning. And what I didn't realize at the time, which I now see, is that the lack of peace of mind, the absence of calm and peace was a choice I was making. I was unaware of that choice. All right. I was unconscious of that choice. The unconscious patterns were playing out. My silverback gorilla, I got a whole load of dudes who I was less, I'm not so in this gang anymore, but they were like a bunch of silverback gorillas. We're all like punching his chest, and basically that's all we did. Like ego, ego, and we'd be out doing cool shit, and we all thought we were hot shit, and we were hot shit. But the problem was, I was caught up in a bunch of bullshit that wasn't working for me, and over time made me ill, depression, made me isolated from my wife, made me isolated from my family in general. Although I was always present for my daughters, but I was just in a bad groove, right? Now, that math makes sense to me 6 years on, hundreds of books, hundreds of hours of podcasts, hundreds of scores of hours of therapy, lots of self-work. It's completely obsessive. I'm a bit ADHD, basically. I'm ADHD adjacent, but hyper focus on reading and shit. I'm like a real proper nerd. I can recall it very clearly. And I've really put the hours in, right? Searching for a way to not go back to that place, right? Because it was very painful. And it was a direct result of my own patterns and habits, my own groove. I followed the groove and it put me in a hole. It was my groove. No one else made that groove happen. My groove, my fault. Right now, I can blame the culture. I can blame somebody else. Ultimately, I'm the one living it. So, again, David Brooks in his book, you fall off the first mountain. That's what happens to everybody. Maybe you're ill. Maybe you're bankrupt. Maybe if somebody dies, some shit. You fall off your first mountain. Maybe at the top, maybe halfway up. And then you end up in the valley. All right. Now, I was in the valley in 2017. And this is a beautiful line that he says in the book. In the valley, you are either broken or you are broken open. You're either broken or you're broken open. All right. So broken, what does that mean? Well, I'm resentful. I'm bitter. I'm angry. I hate the world. I could blame. By the way, there was a lot of people I could have blamed. We had a managing director. We had a management team. There was lots of clients. Brexit had happened. I could have blamed everyone from Boris Johnson on down. Right. There was a lot of people I could put a finger. But ultimately, I was the one in charge of that business when it went horribly wrong in 2017. And so I was broken open like a walnut shell. Crack. And then you go in and you find depths to yourself you didn't know was there. And the answers are in, not out. And so that's what I did. I journeyed in. So in 2017, the blow up happened. It was I dramatized this because it could have gets the point across. But it was a very dramatic moment. And it did all go wrong in the space of about 3 to 6 months. And so I went from glory boy. I mean, you wouldn't believe I was the lead character in a movie pilot that was being filmed around the UK and the US. Winning those awards I listed, I was coaching with the world's #1 entrepreneurial coach, with the guy that co-founded SpaceX, literally sat with him in Toronto that year. I was like literally hot shit. Like I was like tick, 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 like unbelievable life, right? And within 6 months later, flamed all my life savings, nearly lost my marriage. There was a whole load of shit going on with my business partner's wife who was really ill, and it was just so dramatic. There was a complete switcheroo. So I use it as a dramatic lever because it was for me. And that transformation happened to me in quite a brutal fashion. But it's instructive because we all go through versions of that, whether higher or lower. All right. And so the broken open piece, what does that mean? You're the problem. You've got to accept responsibility. That means going in to discover your silverback gorilla. Maybe that exists. I didn't even know. All right. I'm walking around basically embodying a silverback gorilla, right? The kind of very primal part of my bloody limbic system was in control. I didn't even know. No idea.
Yeah.
And it took me to go to that like dramatized scenario to crack my thick egoic skull open so I could even go, oh, maybe I'm not hot shit. Maybe I should like reflect and have perhaps learn some humility and perhaps change some of these habits.
You know, there's just hearing you speak is reminding me of kind of the difference between saying it and doing it, right? And because we can all talk about taking responsibility, we can all advise, it's always easy to coach somebody else or to give them counsel, but when it comes around for your turn to actually take that on, it's a lot harder. And I think that in the last couple of months, I personally have been involved in men's work, actually, which has been an amazing journey, an amazing experience. And that silverback gorilla, they refer to that exact thing as the shadow side that we all have within each of us. And the shadow is always there, but because it's a shadow, it's something that it's kind of, it follows you around, right? Just what a shadow does. And so it's not this kind of thing that just is really ugly and you can see easily and like, oh, great, I'm not going to do that anymore. Come on, that's obvious. It's so kind of difficult to distinguish, or at least when you're up on that mountain and you're trying to see what the next step is, you can't get away from the shut. It's so hard. You've got to break yourself open, I suppose. You've got to do something or have something done to you in order for you to really kind of look around and see, okay, actually there's something here that's not serving me. And often those things are the kinds of things that we thought were serving us, right? You think ambition and all of these things and drive to the top and yeah, I can work harder and smarter and I'll just stamp out the competition, especially for founders, I suppose we're talking about now, where those kinds of things that a lot of founders and in the entrepreneurial space, the hustle culture, all of these things that we've sort of, those narratives we've listened to for the last decade or so seem to have been things that we've got to kind of embrace and sort of push through rather than actually interrogate and go, I don't know if that actually works for me. So it's such an exploration, but such a necessary one.
Yeah. And I'm not saying any of the above is bad or good. I'm saying it is. And here's the thing about shadow. You can't get rid of your shadow. Try it. You can't. What you can do is be aware of it and you can integrate it. Now, here's the thing, right? Sometimes it's kind of handy having a silverback gorilla on hand. Sometimes you got to kick some ass, sometimes you got to kick your own ass. Sometimes you got to, break some eggs to make the omelet.
Yeah.
So having a silverback gorilla on hand to smack someone upside their head is kind of handy. However, having a silverback gorilla running your life from 9 a.m. Monday all the way through because you're not aware that the silverback gorilla is kicking in at this point, that's not so good. All right. So you talk about responsibility. I mean, again, the book, The Chimp Paradox, is quite good at this. He says, like, you can't wrestle a chimp, but it's like training a dog. If the dog bites someone, it's your responsibility. So if your chimp, my silverback gorilla goes, oh, fucking hell, no, and has a go at somebody and creates a lot of drama around me, I can't just go, well, it's not my fault. It's my limbic system kicking off.
Yeah.
It's an ancient part of my brain. It's a bit like a chimp, right? Because it's not, I have to take responsibility. Yeah. Now, the word responsibility is interesting. Taking responsibility. It's a big word. Well, right. It also comes across as an onerous word, but I'm going to switch it up for you. Responsibility means you have the ability to respond. Responsibility, ability to respond. It's empowering, right? You have responsibility for your silverback gorilla chimp mind and yourself and your conduct and your company and your behavior and your relationships, etc. You can control one person. That's you, right? Good luck trying to control anybody else, right? You can control you. You've got a fighting chance of that. So you have the ability to respond if you accept responsibility. This is why ultimately it's a kind of empowering message. All right. So when in 2017, when our business blew up, and I realized that, Dan, you're not so hot shit. The bank balance says you're not hot shit, mate. And I had to accept that. And I just read a book called Extreme Ownership by a guy called Jocko Willing, who's a podcaster, ex-Navy SEAL, US Navy SEALs guy. A very, very masculine looking chap. So if
Indeed.
Jocko Willink told me to take the responsibility, to take ownership of it, I said, oh yeah, okay, I'll take responsibility. And I didn't want to. I really didn't. I was squealing and going, yeah, I don't want to take. I don't want to take responsibility. But I thought, it's your fault, mate. Fucking own it. Now, simultaneously, that's painful because you don't want to. You want to squirrely away and blame somebody else. It's bad for your ego to take responsibility. But at the same time, and I remember this, it was like, yeah, fuck it, I can do it. I can, it's my problem. If I did it, I can fix it. I have the ability to respond. All right. And this works on a kind of deep level because you do have the ability to respond in any circumstance.
Yeah.
Your man who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, whose name's escaping me now.
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl. Everybody wheels out Viktor Frankl when they want to be profound because he wrote his book in Auschwitz, right? Man's Search for Meaning. But I'm going to quote him because if he can say it, I can say it, right? This is his quote. He says, people can take away everything you own, except for one thing, your ability to respond. Yeah, words to that effect. So listen, if Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz with his family dead and he's got the clothes taken off his back can say that and own that and live that, all right? I can. Do you know what I mean? I mean, look.
Totally.
And I'm like, well, look, because you do. And this is, here's the thing I learned, right? And I've only becoming really clear to me probably 6 months into doing this project, Founders Are Mental. So I've sold the shares in the company I turned around in 2017 to pursue Founders Are Mental. It's a kind of peer-to-peer coaching group, basically. I coach you on this one thing I learned, right? It's how to choose whether you have stress or not. Yeah. It's how to choose whether you have peace of mind or whether you have, you can't switch off. That is a choice. All stress is a choice, quotes Sadhguru, a yogi mystic who I follow. His book, Inner Engineering. If Viktor Frankl says you can respond and he's in Auschwitz, and if yogi mystics say all stress is a choice, I don't know, maybe there's something in it. All right. And this is what piqued my interest because I had spent my life freaking out as a silverback gorilla, giving it and stressing out all the time and just saying, well, of course I'm stressed and cross and being a knobhead and drunk because I'm a founder. How else am I going to deal with it? Because I've got to hustle and get out there and party and do all that stuff. And so all the patterns and habits that were bad for me, I could justify as being part of a founder life. Of course, I'm drinking till 3 a.m. because I'm hustling. Of course, I'm out on 3 days a week because I'm a party guy. I grew up in the 90s and that's what I do. I'm good at that. I should do that for the business. It's getting work. All right. But then coming back and being grumpy with my wife and drinking too much and embarrassing myself. And, these, I mean, it's like things that were fun at 25, when you're 45, suddenly ain't.
Well, I mean, we're amazing masters, each of us, at the ability to create new justifications for what we do and what we are trying to escape from, aren't we? It's denial, right? That's really what it is. And we are, I mean, we're very, very good at doing that. And when we are encountering resistance around something, it's easy to sort of like, oh, well, actually, there's another justification hiding right behind it. So I'll just start using that one. Thanks very much. That's why I'm like this. That's why I'm doing that. And I think specifically with founders as well, like you said, hustle culture and like, yeah, it's just part of growing a business. Come on, buck up, pull your socks up. All right, just kind of rush through it. And, at any cost, that kind of mentality is just, it's doomed. And I think more and more people are starting to really cotton onto that. Thank God. But I suppose there's also a lot more work to be done to get more people.
And again, look, real talk. Sometimes you got to break the omelets, break the eggs to make the omelet. Being a founder isn't something you can be nice to everybody all the time. I don't mean being mean to people. I'm saying you have to have an edge.
Yeah.
Right. You can't expect to be having this sort of kumbaya sort of collaborative group hug as you build a startup for the next 10 years. It's now that's not the same thing as being an asshole or shouting at people or being rude, but you've got to have some steel.
Yeah.
All right. And here's the thing. So you've got your silverback gorilla is pretty good to give you some backbone when you're really not feeling it, and you've got to have that fight. right? And so sometimes you got to tell someone to fuck off. You got to have the ability to do that if you're the leader. And that's where the shadow is very useful.
Yes.
Because the shadow is like, nah, I'm going to do that guy. And you go, look, well, don't put him in a shallow grave quite yet. Just tell him to, you'll pay him next month. And you harness those energies, all right?
Yeah.
And so to the point is like again, it's not a black and white thing or a right or wrong thing. It's just like finding your groove. That's why I call it the groove. We've all got a groove. It's an oscillating little groove, and it goes up and down. It evolves over time. And I think that the thing that's really interesting is I just want to come back to this point about your narratives, because I have I'll introduce a coaching concept actually from Founders on Mental. So if we accept Sadhguru's premise that all stress is a choice, if you have the ability to respond to a situation, you have that power. No one else has that. You have that power. This is an empowering message. Then you have to accept responsibility for your silverback gorilla, but also how you're responding and how your well-being, your mental state, your mental health, your peace of mind is. You take responsibility for that. Yeah. So here's how I would help you to see that. This is again, after all the work I've done, sort of try and simplify it. So we often think that we are this kind of integrated unit. I think it must be true, off I go. But that isn't true. You've already intimated there's a shadow side to you, right? There's also many other facets to you. Neuroscience proves this. There's a therapeutic model called internal family systems. Basically, different parts of your brain do have different almost characteristics, and they compete with each other. This is a thing. The point being is you've got numbers of facets of you roiling around at any time. So you say you're going to go to the gym, and then you don't go to the gym. Why is that? If you were an integrated unit, you'd say, yeah, I'm going to go, you go. But lazy Alex kicks in, and then you don't go. All right?
He does.
Yeah. It happens to me all the time. So what I'm going to do is challenge that. I'm going to say there's three parts of you. Okay? There's your body, there's your mind, and there is your awareness. Okay? Now, these are part of you. They're not, this is the integrated unit. Awareness is not part of your mind. It is separate and distinct to your mind. Right? So we all know and we accept that if we eat good food, we go to the gym, we get good sleep, that our body is good, it's strong. We all accept that, right? We all also accept that if you study, you go to university, if you read books, if you perhaps meet new people, you get different challenges, you expand your mind, your intellect. It becomes a sharper tool to do business with, or whatever. We accept that. We know we should read the books because it's a good practice. But we also have a third element of us. And it's the element of us that observes your thoughts, which come from your mind, and they observe your emotions, and your emotions come from your body. Your unconscious, arguably, is everything below the chin. So your viscera, your liver, your guts, your spine. This is your unconscious mind. It's embodied. There's brain cells down there, It has memories in the cells. It's embodied thoughts. It's inarticulate, but embodied. Okay, so to your point about creating narratives, here's what happens. I go onto your podcast. You ask me a particularly pointed question. It makes me feel afraid. My fear state kicks in because of some pattern or habit that's embodied in my guts from the time I was embarrassed by an old boss in front of a bunch of colleagues. And you trigger me. And I don't even know that's why I'm so angry at you. But suddenly I'm angry at you, right? My body tells me to be angry. Then my mind, as you've identified, goes, fucking Alex guy. I knew it. Dodgy. He's an asshole. He was always been dodgy. He looked at me funny that time. I know this is true, obviously, Alex, but
Sorry.
We rumbled you finally. But you'd make a story. This is shit that happens. Or he's disrespectful to me. Or he's not taking me seriously. This is a narrative. You just maybe said something off the top of your head, don't thinking about it, whatever, just phrasing, whatever. But I receive that information because it's made me feel uncomfortable and put a narrative on top of it. Okay. So what happens is I go, right, I'm never speaking to him again, and I act that out in the world. It's the end of our relationship or whatever. Or I say something to you and you say something back to me, and then suddenly we've fallen out. In a worst case scenario. So you make it real. So the thought becomes manifest in the world, right? The problem is that's what happens. So you do stuff, you justify it. You have a thought, you interpret it a certain way, you have an emotion, you take it a certain way. Or another example, you get hungry, you walk into the kitchen, there's a donut on the side, you want the donut. So your mind creates a justification. Hey, Dan, you've worked really hard today. You deserve it. You've had a tough day today, mate. Just eat the donut. Meanwhile, you're trying to lose weight or whatever. So you eat the donut. And then the problem is, you're only afterwards, like a day or two later, you wake up the next morning and go, oh, why did I eat that donut? Or 2 days later, you go, or a week later, oh, Alex, oh yeah, actually, I could have really collaborated with Alex, but then I got really my knickers in a twist about something and said that thing, and now it's always a bit weird. And well, maybe he'll take my call again. But it's after the fact, after the adrenaline's fall down, you've had a night's sleep, after it's all gone. So my point is your awareness.
Yeah.
Your body has a squirt of emotion. Your mind creates a rationale or a narrative or a story as to why you feel that, or justifies you eating the donut. The third element of you is the awareness of that. Okay. Now, this is what I call the awareness muscle. Right? If your awareness muscle is weak, you have the thought, you have the emotion, you get swept along with it, you do stuff in the real world, shit happens that isn't probably optimum. That's kind of like a hamster wheel of reactivity.
Yeah.
Negative loop, feedback loop. With a strong awareness muscle, you catch it. You go, oh, fucking hell, yeah, I'm really feeling a lot of anger. Not I am angry, I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling love. I'm feeling excited. It can be positive or negative. It doesn't matter. They're all things to observe. So your ability to observe is always there. Like the screen. It's like the screen on which the movie is playing.
Yeah.
It's always there, but you don't see it. You don't tune into your awareness.
Just to add to that, because sometimes awareness also is like one of those sort of onerous words like responsibility, when someone thinks oh God, I got to close my eyes and think of nothing and, that kind of thing, right? But there's like anything, there's always a clue. There's always a guide to show you where these things can be felt or where they can be noticed. And for me, at least, it's always in the body. It's always in the body somewhere. It gets stored somewhere. For me, when I know I'm having a difficult conversation with somebody, I've started to train myself to know when I start to feel that that kind of slight tightening in the throat, the sort of the well of my stomach kind of start to bubble up a little bit, then I'm aware. I'm activating those awareness muscles, and that's telling me, okay, you're going into a certain mode now. Don't do anything with it yet. Don't react to it. Don't jump in. Don't just know that. Just see it and notice, and then see what you want to do next. Almost like use it as a chance not to continue to react to it, but rather to like, okay, now's the time to just reflect or calm down or take a breath.
It's a great example. And it's again, just to go back to the three elements of you, the body, the mind, and your awareness. And what you're doing is identifying with the awareness and strengthening your awareness. So when you have these thoughts or emotions, like you're doing like if you did press ups every day, you'll get stronger. It isn't rocket science. If you build on your awareness, be it through meditation or breath work or journaling, I really like, or just slowing down and observing your body, feeling it and connecting with yourself, going for a walk, connecting with nature, talking to a friend. Like there's lots of ways of slowing yourself down and seeing it. But the first thing is being aware you have awareness and seeing it as something you can strengthen. And to your point, here's what I do. And this is what I'm going to be coaching people this month on this. So we've got an exercise called the fear optimizer. So I'll share with you how you do it. So Alex, you've given me an example actually of how it works for you.
Yeah.
So the fear optimizer is an exercise that has, if you imagine the people listening, grab a piece of paper and draw 2 lines in it, so you have 3 columns.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first column, write down everything that you're feeling fear about, or you're afraid of, or you're worried about. Okay, so the thing that made your throat constrict.
Yeah.
Could be like this difficult conversation. I'm worried about it. Okay, it could be the tax bill. It could be just something small. It could be something big. It doesn't matter. Anything. Just get it down. And you spend a few minutes writing out all this. By the way, is therapeutic in and of itself.
Mm.
Right. By the way, I'm not saying I'm some sort of monk. On Monday, I did this exercise for myself because I woke up full of fear.
Mm.
Right, really irrationally fearful about a lot of stuff. Well, not irrationally. It's founded. I'm set up a new company. Lots of things to go wrong, you know. So these were real fears, but I was feeling a lot of like panic around them. And I knew I had to sort of work on myself. I didn't really want to. I thought, no, get a coffee. And then, but I slowed myself down and did this exercise. And actually, by the act of writing it on a piece of paper, immediately reduced the sense of fear I felt. All right, so weird and simple, and it shouldn't be this straightforward, but it is. All right, so write it out. Okay, this is what we're doing. We're identifying. Then, if you pick one of those, say this awkward conversation you're going to have, and you move that to the second column. Now we're going to observe it. So we've identified our fears, and we're going to observe the fear now. Because often with a fear, you want to run away from it. You don't want to be with it because it's scary. That's the fear, you know, it's natural. You want to run away. But if you sit and get intimate with that fear and just, why are you afraid of it? What aspects of this are you scared of? What's the worry? Bring some of this stuff to the surface, right? And again, journaling is for me really useful because you just can make it written down and you can kind of see it. It's not sloshing around my mind, you know? And you go, okay, well, I'm worried about that because I might say the wrong thing. If I say the wrong thing, I might get taken to a tribunal. And then if I get taken to a tribunal, I might get a big bill. And if I get a big bill, I've got a cash flow thing and I haven't paid my thing. And so suddenly you start to get to the source of the problem, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, actually, it's just like, ultimately, I need to get a better sales strategy because I'm worried about cash.
Yeah.
That's stopping me having this HR conversation, right? So that's interesting because you start to get intimate with it. And then what we would do is we have you would then pause and leave your pad of paper and you would do what we would call relax and release. Or I'm going to rebrand the relax and the release session is that you should feel it and then F it off. I'm channeling my shadow here, Alex. I think sometimes you need some of that kind of aggressive energy just to sort of, you know, just fuck off. I don't want you anymore. Get out of my life, right?
Yeah,
just feel
get out of the room,
it,
move it out.
It,
yeah.
Honor it, respect it, go, yeah, I feel it, but fuck off now.
Yeah.
So instead of relax and release, which is a bit too, you know, nice, we're going to call it the F and F, feel it and F it off. And so that's what you should do. You feel it, feel the pain, feel the fear, feel the darkness, feel the worry, feel the sickness in your gut about the risk you're going to take on. Feel it, honor it, respect it. Say, yeah, I get it. I honor you. You're there. Now fuck off, right? Because I'm going to go back to the real me, my awareness state. So how do you do that? Okay, there's a number of factors. We've said some. Do some breath work, do some meditation, have a nice cup of tea, go for a walk, have a bath, shower, do some burpees. It doesn't really matter. Change your state.
Yeah.
Work your body a bit. That's good. But we do some breath work, a particular breath work routine where you just breathe in and breathe out and elongate the out breath. That's it. Man, I'll tell you, you do that for 2 minutes, you kind of come out like some sort of Zen-like god.
Yes.
It's weird. It's so weird. It's so easy as well.
Yeah.
But it's changing your physiology so you can go back to the problem. All right. So you've identified the fear. You've observed the fear. You've now felt it and effed it off because you've done some breath work, say some slow breath. You've calmed your physiology. You've calmed your body. Yeah. You've calmed your mind. So your awareness is stronger and your awareness can now go back and re-engage with the problem. And then in the third column, which is where you act. And often what I like to say is to say, often you're never upset for the reason you think. What's really the thing underneath this, right? And then what are some concrete things you could do to address the fear? Maybe you could consult a lawyer. Maybe you could talk to your colleague. Maybe you could prepare a script before your meeting. Maybe you could bring somebody else with you to the meeting. Maybe you could model that meeting out. There's lots of things you could do that are very practical, right? That are concrete, that aren't reactive, right? You're not going fear, reaction. All right, that's a weak awareness muscle. That creates drama. That's the hamster wheel of reactivity. Strong, and by the way, this takes 5 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm sort of talking you through it slowly here, but this isn't a long process.
What's beautiful about it as well, aside from the fact that it's so simple, is that it's even just the very act of doing it. And I think it's probably, like anything with the practice, right? You do yoga because it's good for you and you get into the practice, but eventually you realize that just setting up in the morning, knowing that I'm going to be doing that, it's that whole thing of like putting your exercise shorts on the chair the night before, that already kind of reprograms you and kind of puts you into the frame of mind that already starts experiencing the benefit before you've actually gone through with it. And that's the state we want to be in, right? We want to be able to control the physiology. It's almost like tricking that monkey brain of ours, right? Right back to monkeys and primates. Look at what this podcast is really about, Dan. But
basically, exactly.
Yeah.
Throw them a banana, keep them happy. That's basically it. And again, being glib, yeah. And actually, part of this is about taking control, all right, of what often you are not in control of. So going back to my kind of revelation and challenge is that you can control or assert more control over your stress response.
Yeah.
All right. It is within your power. Question is how? My answer to that is to figure out what groove you are in. Yeah. I.e., what are the patterns and habits in your life? Are you putting your gym kit out the night before? Or are you having a cigarette and a pint the night before? All right. Which one is it? Now, you might have a narrative around the pint of beer in the pub and all your friends and all that stuff. But is it working for you? Based on where you want to go and whatever. And if you can reprogram those things and then get into your groove that's actually intentionally designed to help you for the long term, and then work on the awareness muscle thing, because often that's the thing that all these things are building that awareness in general. The reps are, for me, every day I do a journaling practice. I need to do it. If I don't do it, I feel adrift. Why? Because it sets me for the day. Why is that a good thing to do? Because if I don't do it, I'm more likely to make silly mistakes and or work more. Yeah. If I sit with myself and let the dust settle and really collate my thinking and say which of the 25 billion things that I want to do are essential, I do them first, not the thing that's making me most fearful. Right. So it's about asserting control over your monkey mind. Yeah, because you're afraid about something. The silverback gorilla's going, send that email to Alex calling him an idiot. And you're like, yeah, he's an asshole, that guy. And then when you sit down and let your awareness kick in, you go, maybe that's not the right thing to do. Yeah. Maybe it is, but maybe you don't need to do it first thing in the morning, right? Maybe just do it, next week, yeah? And then, yeah. And again, I'm playing with the but the point being is we all have these things and it's a battle with yourself. And so to acknowledge that you're not this, I think it, therefore it's real. I feel it, therefore it's real. That isn't true. It may be true, but your holistic version of yourself wants to make sure it's true before you react. Because you can repent at leisure once you've said something. All right. So, and again, a founder's got a bazillion things to worry about and things to do and people to get upset at. Right. Nothing will go to plan. Yeah. Everything in your life is a series of cock-ups. All right. And so the only thing you can do, again, this is here's the benefit of my 22 years in the game. I've really done very well. And I've really done not so well. I've seen both sides of that coin. And the only solution is to accept responsibility and just to do the work. And ultimately, going back to the second mountain thing, the second mountain, so the first mountain, you fall off. Second mountain is of our own service to others. That's the true meaning of life, his argument. So the second mountain is what I am pursuing with Founders Are Mental. It's a peer-to-peer coaching company, right? But my mission is to help every founder in the world. That's why I'm sharing stuff like this very open. I'm not protective over the IP. I'm sharing it because I want you, anyone listening, to avoid what I call the dark side of success.
Yeah.
You can avoid it. You can have all the good stuff and not all the bad stuff. Just me had to go through that experience because I was out of control silverback gorilla. And it worked real good for 13 years. That's a long time. But it didn't work right good on the 13th year. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so these things are long games, right? If you're going to stay in the game, you want to be in it, you got to play a long game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's beautiful about the idea of a groove, because once again, coming back to words, sometimes people, when you throw a word like responsibility or meditation or, morning routine or things like that, sometimes that immediately sets them down a path where it's like, okay, yeah, start and stop. Don't know if that's going to help. But a groove feels like something that you kind of keep returning back into. And maybe you kind of skate too far to the side sometimes, but then you sort of find the middle again and you kind of keep coming back in. And that's how it really is. No one is a monk every single day anyway. And so it's about a sense of fairness to yourself, but also understanding that kind of personal responsibility that it all starts with anyway, because the longer we put that off, the longer
groove.
Out of that groove. Yeah, exactly.
And here's the thing. I can only say two things about, I know two things for sure about every single entrepreneur in the world, right? One is they're trying to climb some big mountain. That's just, you set out, and whatever that mountain is your mountain. That's number one. Number two, you have a groove. It doesn't matter like whether you agree with me or not. You do have it. These are the patterns and habits of your life, right? Just the way it is. You wake up at this time, not that time. You like to go to bed early or late, whatever. These are the patterns and habits of your life. That's your groove. And you are responsible ultimately in the final analysis, because no one else is going to get you out of bed 20 minutes earlier or get you to the gym. No one else is going to do that. People might help you occasionally, but you've got to live your life. So are you going to lead your life, or are you going to respond to your life based on your peer group from growing up, the culture you grew up in, some bad habits you picked up, blah, 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 and all these unconscious patterns? Or are you going to take ownership? And the kind of key thing in this is to go, well, I would advise taking ownership of it for a start, but then is to say, look, be kind to yourself through that process. Again, the groove work for me the groove is a metaphor for this multifaceted, complex, very unique thing that everybody carries.
Yes.
It's a metaphor, two-word metaphor. That's all it is.
And it's beautiful that it's not a formula, right? It's not like a Tony Robbins course that I can just go away and, hey, I'm going to get the bod I want afterwards, right? But it's more like, well, these are certain principles, these are certain things to think about, and then you make up your own path, you make up your mind as you go. I just want to come to Rana quickly, who has something to share with us. Rana, can you hear us?
Absolutely. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. Dan, first of all, thank you. As so much of what you've shared aligns and resonates with what my experience has been. Only within the past year have I resigned from this wonderfully structured and predictive life of academia into founding a company in another country with my partner. After never seeing entrepreneurship as part of my group. And so for me, my gorilla, which I'm so conscious of, it's not necessarily you're all that, but it's more this beating of a reminder of either not doing something that I'm supposed to be doing but I don't know what that is. And so my failure should happen because I didn't do that, even though I don't know what that was supposed to be. Or coming from a place of feeling deficient because I didn't do X, Y, and Z that Dan said that I'm supposed to be doing, to be in this place of detached observer of responsibility. And so it's almost asking for your insight in navigating this completely. And I don't use the word mental, I use the word delusional. My husband and I, we look at each other and we're at once in a while, it's like, are we just delusional? And my answer every time is yes, because we are building something that is not there. It's unseen. So we're seeing something that is not present. So yes, we are delusional.
Well, but can I just, I'm going to agree with you and correct you at the same time, if you don't mind. Right?
I am here.
You are delusional in the sense of it's not there. But there's a different word for delusional. It's visionary.
Yes.
All right. Now,
yes.
I feel you. Why? I've just left a 20-year-old company, very well established, to pursue a purpose-led project, doing something I've never done before. I'm not a trained coach, but I'm coaching people. I've got some savings, but it's going to run out in 6 months. And I've got a big expensive house. All the costs are going up. I've got 3 teenage daughters. One's moved to London for you. Listen, mate, I've got like all the problems everybody has. You know what I mean? Like I've just got various different flavor of the pie. All I'm saying. And I am saying to myself, literally today, I'm not even kidding. I had a really long day yesterday. I worked very hard. It was very productive. But after I have a hangover after I've been very productive. And my hangover is in the form of it's shit, you're useless, you can't do this, what you're thinking about, you're delusional. So welcome to the club, was all I'm saying. And this is not something you will get somewhere and stop feeling.
No.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm saying that from a place of love and support and encouragement, really, because you are brave, you're visionary, and you're setting out to do it. You're trying to do good in the world. It's really deeply honorable, right? And you should be proud of that. Now, if it goes wrong, fuck it. 90% of them go wrong. It's not your fault. It's just the way it is, right? Same as me. I'm looking this thing down the barrel as well. I'm thinking, oh my God, everyone's going to laugh at me. But all this, so going back to you are body, mind, awareness. Okay. You described words, thoughts, patterns that your mind is saying to you that are probably not super constructive. Right? Now, you're not unique in that. It's nothing to do with you. Now, your mind will go, you were academic. You haven't got a business degree. You don't know anything about entrepreneurship. You're an idiot. You're delusional. Right? That's what your mind's saying. Okay? Here's what my mind's saying, and this is true. I've been self-employed for 22 years. You're not a coach. You can't do this anymore. You've never run Facebook ads before. You're stupid. What did you do that for? You're going to your father-in-law's going to think you're an idiot. Like, seriously, this is just. I'm getting tortured all the time, and so I can either listen to that voice and pay attention to it and study it and go, yeah, maybe he's got a point. Maybe I'm a delusional idiot. Maybe that's right. Or I could feel it and F it off.
Yeah.
Release it. Thank you for your service, concerned mind. I know you're trying to protect me from my creative inner self, but you can fuck off now because we're going to go back to the job. All right. And you torturing me with your incessant chatter isn't helping me pursue the dream, the vision, the goals I have. All right. So it's not to be critical of your mind. Your mind's trying to protect you. It's to be aware of your mind. And like, so here's an analogy for you. I have 2 dogs, a French bulldog with one eye and a Jack Russell. The French bulldog with one eye is thick as shit. He's a pedigree animal and he's thick as pudding. And if like some noise happens outside, he's like, ruff, 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 ruff. And he goes to the front door. He's like banging the front door, and he's like a tank. Right? And I'm like, oh, Jesus, there's nothing there. Okay. He let him out, and he walks outside, and then he goes, blah, 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 and he comes back in, and he's really pleased with himself. Right? Yeah. He's like, I did it. I protected the family from the danger. Okay. Now that's what your mind is. Mm. And you could get really, I could go, oh yeah, there's danger. We should go out there. I might be getting stolen, robbed. Oh my God. But I smile at my stupid one-eyed French bulldog pedigree, thick as pig shit animal, and smile at him and go, fucking hell. What a character. All right. I let him do his thing. I go back to my work. I don't worry about whether there's a robber outside. I go back to my work. And that's what I would advise you do.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's true. Maybe there is a robber outside. Maybe you do need to be worried. That is true. It's possible. But it's a lot of times you're inventing all sorts of crazy shit. And you're obviously smart, obviously creative, obviously, but you're creating, so you will create lots of crazy shit because you are smart and inventive.
I suppose the route to that is being able to just stop yourself to be able to choose how you react rather than reacting. And I think that's acting rather than reacting.
Rather than reacting.
Yeah, beautifully.
So that's why your awareness is so critically important. It's not some abstract concept. Let's work on raising our consciousness for the betterment of the universe. Nah. You could call it that. That is very real, what I'm saying. But building your awareness, strengthening that muscle, means you don't fuck up your business.
Yeah.
All right. This is very, very concrete, the benefit for you. All right. So your action, not reaction. To honor yourself and be kind to yourself too, because it's hard. And this is why the groove is a good metaphor. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down. That's a good groove. Some days you don't do the work. Some days you do. You go, okay, I'll oscillate. All right. What you don't want to do is be screaming like, I'm having the best day ever. Whoa, we've made it. Yes, multimillionaires. And then the next day, oh, it's the worst day ever. All right. And then, and listen, I get it. There's good days and bad days, but like oscillating up and down, nice groove. Stay in the groove. This is what I say every day. Stay in the groove. Stay in the fucking groove, Dan. I say it to myself. Stay in the groove, stay in the groove. Because if I don't, I go off piste and I blow everything up.
Yeah.
And that's not a good place to be, blowing stuff up. And big stupid gorilla smashing everything up because he's not been aware. I wasn't aware that it was even part of me. That's what I'm trying to not to do for myself. And if I can help others, that's good too.
Beautiful. And that's exactly what you're doing and what you've done with us today. Dan, thank you so much. I want to be respectful of your time and everyone's time as well. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think everyone did. And I know that everyone else who listens to the podcast will have picked up a lot from it. Thank you so much. Thanks, Troy. Nice to see your face. And make sure you check out Funders Are Mental. There's a whole lot more content on social media and from Dan as well if you follow him on LinkedIn. But Dan, it was a pleasure and thank you. And I would love to have you on again sometime if you're crazy enough to.
I'm happy to shout about silverback gorillas all day and night.
That's what we need.
That's what we all need. Yeah, what I would say actually, if you're the founders of ourmental.com, we have a weekly newsletter or the weekly mental that I write it, and it's a lot of the topics we've talked about here is just it's quite
Excellent.
simple,
yeah,
but keeping in the groove is quite difficult. So just I share a lot of free content. I'm about teaching these principles. That's what it's all about. So just check me out, check us out, get involved. I'll genuinely be keen to hear from you.
I'll make sure that I put some links in the show notes for sure. Yeah. Thanks for listening to Humble Mind. If you enjoyed the podcast and want to know a little bit more about our community, check us out on humblemind.co. Until next time.